Is it destiny? Or is it the destination? Are our paths predetermined? Or can we wander off the edge of the map? There's no single genetic marker for the people who will change the world. These individuals have ambition. They have imagination. They have grit. They declare, no gravity, not today. Where others see obstacles, they see opportunities. What results is often remarkable: invention. These trailblazers, innovators, and pioneers are the people all around you, creating the amazing things that surround us. You may not be here to change the world, but you are changing it by being here. Welcome to the 2020 Red Hat Summit virtual experience. From here, anywhere.
Hi, good morning. Hi, everybody. Thank you for tuning into this Belux Summit recap session. We are very happy that you chose this one over the possibly 4 other sessions that you could have followed at exactly the same time. Now, we kind of felt the pressure to give you something spectacular today, and also because we don't trust any technology that doesn't have the Red Hat stamp on it, we kind of pre-recorded this. Now, don't worry, we'll tune in live with you right after this presentation. Because to be honest, this summit recap session is just a little bit of an excuse to get in touch with you. We want to know how you are doing. These are surreal times, and we want to know how you are, what you're working on, how do you feel about the future, and how can we help in any way to make all this a little bit easier. So there is a Q&A box on your right-hand side, if I'm correct. And there is also a poll section. Please put all your questions there, fill in the polls, and right after this presentation, we'll come back to discuss them with you live. And that's the most important to us right now, to know how you're doing and to make sure that we stay connected, even in this strange virtual space that we're in. Okay, so let's go over to the highlights of the Red Hat Summit. Our theme, From Here, Anywhere, didn't only reflect to the 56,000 people who joined our sessions live during those 2 days. It also tells you a little bit more about the vision that we have for our technology. From the private data center to the edge. And if you want to know what that really looks like, I can highly recommend you watching the demo hosted by Bert Sutter and his team during the summit. It showcases how our entire portfolio came together to provide an application platform for global organizations. I'll put a link in the chat box so that you can watch it straight after this presentation. Edward, our infrastructure solution architect, knows everything about Linux, and he will give you the highlights about RHEL 8.
Thank you for being here. We're going to talk about the highlights of Summit 2020, which was virtual this year. The highlights that I took away from all the sessions that I watched was that actually our RHEL platform is still the basis of all our products. We've integrated it into Insights. Insights has had a complete overhaul. We've integrated that again with Ansible, our automation tool, which can then be triggering our satellite to manage your sorry.
So what was the changes about Insights? You said Insights had a complete overhaul.
So last year we provided you with Insights, and Insights is actually a service that we provide on cloud.redhat.com, where we ask you to provide us some data about your infrastructure. We will then analyze all that data and see if all the versions of libraries, etc., or confirm the CVEs that we have, so we can provide you with tips and tricks on how to get you better performance of your infrastructure. Now we are adding more and more rules to that AI system. For example, to make sure that your SAP implementation is better, to make sure that your MS SQL installation running on RHEL is performing at optimal performance. In Insights, in the beginning, we were mostly focused on security aspect of RHEL and our product portfolio. And then every week, actually, we add more rules in the AI infrastructure behind the Insights. That Bob will talk about our AI infrastructure and our capabilities there. But what we did there was make sure that we have more rules and more information that will help you to fine-tune our platform to run better on the application level. For example, SAP will need certain performance enhancements for specific tasks, whereas MS SQL that runs great on RHEL, even better than on Windows, by the way, but that the performance optimizations there are different than for SAP, for example. And all those rules we are adding towards Insight to make sure that all the applications that our customers love to run on our infrastructure will run flawlessly, securely, and in an optimal situation. So actually within Insights, we already had the capability of using Ansible playbooks, which you could download and then run locally. But now we're going a step further. We're integrating the Insights capabilities to provide you with playbooks and resolutions. We're integrating that with our Ansible automation platform. That means that instead of downloading it and running it locally, you will actually simply click on the button and everything that needs to be done happens behind the scenes. There's a connection between your infrastructure and the Insights infrastructure, and through that connection we can actually let you select an Ansible playbook that should be run on your infrastructure for this specific host or this group of hosts, so that all the manual labor actually is removed from your responsibility. That completely automates the AI integration of Insights together with Ansible automation platform to run those playbooks.
And where do I need to go for that?
All of our Insights and all of our services actually run on cloud.redhat.com. You can simply go to that website, so it's cloud.redhat.com, and there you have the capability to select Insights, which is integrated with our Ansible automation platform. By the way, if you want to know how the integration between Insights and Ansible on your Ansible automation platform works, that's where Satellite comes in. Oh, by the way, and did you know that our Red Hat virtualization platform is now available in beta on version 4.4? There's a very cool session regarding the use of our virtualization platform in a bank called BBVA, where they actually run their core banking applications on our virtualization platform, completely automated through Ansible. They do run their OpenShift and they do run their public and private cloud on our infrastructure, but their core banking infrastructure runs on Red Hat virtualization. So check out that session, and if you want, 4.4 beta is available today. Thank you very much. See you next time.
Hold me close. What was I gonna do? I let myself go. I've been waiting for you. It's been so long. I knew just what I would do when I heard your song.
Thank you so much, Edward. That was great. Now, next up is Bob Dubois, our very own cloud specialist. He will tell you everything about virtualization, OpenShift on bare metal, data analytics, artificial intelligence. Oh, and even in the following 10 minutes, he'll squeeze in some information on what our customers had to say about us at Red Hat Summit. So a lot of information is coming your way, but it's all crystal clear and in bite-sized chunks. This is Bob Dubois.
What's up, warriors of open source software and freedom? My name is Bob and I'm here to share you my personal highlights of the Red Hat Virtual Summit. Apart from the fact that we got roughly 9 times, 10 times more people attending in virtual than in physical, that's just mind-blowing. So great, we should do this again, I believe. Now, when it comes to the highlights, there were couple of product announcements that were pretty damn nice. And one of those was certainly OpenShift virtualization. Now, I hope by now everybody knows what OpenShift is. So running containers, multiple containers in a multi-cloud open source way on Kubernetes. OpenShift, Kubernetes for the enterprise. Now, what was one of the things that OpenShift was doing? It brought agility for the developer and at the same time stability for the operations. Now, the developer is creating all those cool new applications, microservice applications. Well, wait, no, we're all going Knative or serverless, aren't we? No, actually, what we found in our customer base at your installations is that a lot of the applications have very tight connections to virtual machines, to applications that cannot be containerized, that need to run in a virtual machine. So wait, your developer is doing stuff in a very agile way. He's bringing new features every day or multiple times a day, and he's doing deployments multiple times a day as well. At least doing some testing. For that, he needs this virtual machine. Or after that it passes the tests, it goes to production, and that virtual machine should not reside in a total different setup, in a stack that's not controlled by the application team, and where they have to go ask for another team to do a change when they want to do CI/CD straight into production. That's never gonna fly. That's not gonna work. So we thought we need to change that. We need to solve this problem. And the way we solve this problem is by bringing virtual machines onto the container platform. Yes, not by bringing the containers onto the virtualization platform. That's the other way around. No, we want to bring the virtual machines to the people that drive the innovations, because that's where the stuff is happening for the applications. The applications or demanding the infrastructure, not the other way around. So, okay, good. Let's bring the applications on OpenShift. How are we doing that? Easy. We bring them in OpenShift like an object for Kubernetes, like a pod. That's the unit in Kubernetes wherein a container is wrapped. So let's just wrap a pod around the virtual machine and do some smart stuff with it. That's literally what we do. Whenever you want to do things like continuous delivery or automated testing or whatever you need to do, or if you go from the private data center to the public cloud and that virtual machine needs to go along, even if it's not a Linux machine but a Windows machine, it just can be instructed to live alongside of the application on the container platform anywhere. Physical, private, public, edge, name it, anywhere. That's the great thing about OpenShift virtualization. It's based on KubeVirt. We've referenced it like container native virtualization before. Now, the name will be OpenShift virtualization. It's tech preview now in OpenShift 4.4, so go use it. It's wonderful. Go use it. Now, that wasn't all. There was more in that session. That session of OpenShift virtualization actually started off with something different. It started off with OpenShift bare metal. We could do that for a long time. OpenShift runs anywhere. It runs on RHEL, it runs anywhere. Now, bare metal was a possible way to run it. However, the deployment, the installation and the management of it, the upgrading of it, was a bit cumbersome. You all needed to do a lot yourself. We had this thing called IPI, Installer Provisions Infrastructure, in OpenShift 4, since the release of OpenShift 4, and it did great stuff in the public cloud and on a couple of other platforms in the on-prem data center, but it didn't actually provision bare metal infrastructure, physical machines. Now that has changed. That's something we now do. We run OpenShift bare metal just as you would run it in a public cloud, where OpenShift installs itself, extends itself, grows to other new machines, does upgrades, anything you want it to do like a cloud platform, but just then on a bare metal. We use components from OpenStack called Ironic, which are purpose-built for bare metal provisioning. Now we incorporated that into OpenShift 4.4 for bare metal provisioning. Now OpenShift, you just tell it to run bare metal, you just give it the MAC addresses, the IPMI to connect to, and off you go. It installs. You want to grow from 10 to 20 worker nodes, give them the MAC addresses, off it goes. OpenShift bare metal. For those use cases where you don't actually see any value in virtualization, or where you need the full power of the CPU, that's your go-to. Now, this other theme where a couple of sessions were talking about was anything data and AI ops, data and AI ops by extension. Now, it is not the core focus of Red Hat to be in data management or in data analytics. But it is a very important use case for which our platform is to be used and increasingly is being used. Now, also at Red Hat, we have data needs. We have development groups and teams that require big data sets and analytics. We are doing stuff with data. Edward talked about Insights. It's a data analytics application. So from those needs, internally, we developed a collection of containerized applications, frameworks, languages, tools that are actually at need for a data scientist, data engineer and data scientist. Now we do know that there's tools on the market that offer a lot more, and we even didn't yet productize this thing called Open Data Hub. But if you're into data scientists, data analytics, and you're frequently using workbenches or Kubeflow or Jupyter notebooks or that kind of stuff, Kafka, if you're using Spark, Hadoop Spark stuff. Now that means you're using open source tools, and those can be containerized for you at your fingertips to be easily consumable. Now what we did in Open Data Hub is we collected them into a operator, by the way, the operator framework of OpenShift, and that does a lot of for you, so you don't have to install and configure all that thing to work properly. So an operator does that for you. Now, Open Data Hub is a meta operator in the sense that you install the Open Data Hub operator to get the Open Data Hub as an option available on your OpenShift, and from there you can deploy all of the Jupyter notebooks, whatever you need, Kubeflow, whatever you need by an operator. So an operator does that heavy lifting for you. Now this is great. Will it be productized? I hope it will be, because one of the big issues in AI applications and all of the development around it is it struggles to leave the test environment. It struggles to leave the POC, the proof of concept, because IT isn't capable of delivering those functionalities, those frameworks in a enterprise way and on the platform that they're offering. Now, this is where Open Data Hub can play a role, in the sense that don't care about managing it. It's self-managing by the operator framework, and it's all open source. So go and check it out. There were a couple of talks on the Open Data Hub, and it's cool stuff.
And now we're flying through the stars. Hope this night will last forever. Ho, 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 ho. Ain't nobody lost me better.
So, I'm done. Oh wait, one more. Sometimes it's so nice to hear customers present. Well, it's always nice to hear customers present. But in this very special occasion, there was the customer Siemens talking about their journey for automating a PKI infrastructure for the Windows environment. And big infrastructure had some trouble in the automation journey, but all worked out fine. Now, this customer makes a closing remark to this session, like a hint to people writing RFPs or doing vendor analysis for software selection or anything. And he was like, take in your non-functional requirements that the software that you're choosing must be automatable. In other words, if you cannot automate it with tools like Ansible, you probably don't want to choose that software part for your future, because you will get stuck with it. You need software for anything to run your operations, but you need things that you can automate. If you cannot automate it, it is a limiting factor. Now, it's really nice to hear a customer like Siemens make such an expression. Now, I'll stay out now. Those were my highlights. Over to the next one. Ludwig.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Ludwig Albrecht. I'm an app dev specialist at Red Hat, which means that I get to work with our customers and partners in Belgium and Luxembourg and work with them around our app dev solutions, our app dev technology, which is everything from OpenShift over Java and JBoss onto integration, API management, views, all those kinds of cool technology. And I looked at the registrations list, so I've already met a few of you in real life, but most of you I've never met before, so nice to virtually meet you. I attended the virtual summit this year. I thought it was pretty cool, to say the least. And after watching all of that, one of the trick parts was definitely, figuring out which things, which key points I want to highlight today. But I think the first one was easy enough, and that's RHACM, or RHACM, Red Hat Advanced Cluster Management for Kubernetes, is a new thing we're bringing out, and it's something that our customers have been asking for years now. So the idea behind it is that as our customers grow with their OpenShift implementations, they tend to have different clusters running in different places, and that makes it, or can make it, tricky to to manage those different clusters. And that's the idea behind RHACM, to take away some of that pain. So it's a centralized viewpoint, really, to look at your different clusters, check on the status, the health of them, and so on. But also to do things such as easily create and destroy clusters. But why not also check on configuration drift? So when you have different clusters, oftentimes, unless you have a perfect infrastructure as code setup, but to be honest, a lot of us don't have that, then changes can appear between clusters. It's not always easy to find out where those differences are and understand why you see different behaviors in different clusters. Of course, sometimes that can be intentional, right? You may want to have some differences between your let's say your development environment and your production environment, but still can be useful to have one centralized viewpoint to really look at those different clusters and understand where the differences are, and to manage that. Of course, a big point of that is also, monitoring usage, seeing how it's being used. But what's pretty cool is that they've also thought about things to make the risk management or the CISO people happy, which is everything around compliance. So you have the possibility to define different policies and make sure to apply those to across the different clusters that you manage. So one centralized policy that then gets applied to different clusters. You can create custom policies, but you can also reuse existing ones and apply those. So those are policies such as around PCI compliance or around NIST and HIPAA, but I think that applies quite a bit less to our region. But it's not just about monitoring and policies and risk management and all that. You can also go ahead and drill down actually into your application. So look at your application, see how the applications maybe have different configuration on different clusters, but also apply updates or patches consistently across your different environments and across your different applications. And so this is, I think, something really, really big that our customers have asked and needed for a long time. And originally at GA, so general availability, it's first going to support only the OpenShift container platform, so version 3.11 and the 4.x range that we have now. But short term, the intention is also to support other Kubernetes instances. So basically, it's going to be OpenShift running wherever, whether it's on premises, bare metal, in public clouds, but then also longer term things like AKS, IKS, EKS, GKE. You will be able to import those into RACM as well, and to monitor those in the same way as you would with any OpenShift environment. So I think this is really cool, and also the fact that it's not just because I think the main request we had from customers was about managing and monitoring those different instances. But the fact that it goes already from GA, it will go quite a bit further than just management, but also add things like compliancy and applying updates and so on. I think that's really cool. So I'm quite looking forward to that. And the goal is to so it's available in tech preview now, and the goal is to release that in GA around summer, concurrently with OpenShift 4.5. Another cool summit topic I want to touch on is Quarkus. So Quarkus, in case you haven't heard of it, it's a Kubernetes native Java framework. So it's built with optimizing Java for containers in mind. And its goal is basically to make Java awesome for running with Kubernetes and on serverless environments. So it's optimized for low resource consumption, so extremely low memory usage and very short startup times. And to achieve that, it uses things like ahead-of-time compilation, and besides running on JVM and GraalVM, it also compiles to native binaries. And that makes it really well suited for things like event-driven systems, serverless environments, and of course containers in general. It also has some pretty cool features to make developers more productive, like live reloading of your code. And Vodafone Greece, in their summit session, they went into the challenges that they face and how that led them to search for a new technical stack. And they evaluated a number of different stacks like Node.js, Micronaut, Golang, and a couple of others, but they ended up going for Quarkus. And what Vodafone did was, amongst other things, they migrated a number of Spring Boot applications over to Quarkus, and they came to some really cool results. Not just startup times were reduced, resource usage was significantly less, I think reduced by 60%, which of course leads to some nice cost savings. But also what I found really impressive was that their code base was reduced by 30%. I mean, 30% less code, that's awesome. So much less code to navigate through, and of course way less code that bugs can hide in. And Lufthansa Technik, in their session on Summit, where they spoke about how they use Quarks and so on, that session was quite a bit more technical, but they actually run into the exact same advantages as Vodafone Greece did. So it was a simplified code base, more productive developers, and much better scalability and especially that scalability was a key driver for Lufthansa Technik. So Quarkus went GA, generally available a few weeks ago, or maybe a month ago. In Corona times, it's all blending together, I have to say. So yeah, I'd say check out Quarkus and check out those two summit sessions. One last topic I want to briefly touch on is Red Hat's modernization migration solutions. So yeah, digital transformation, it's a cliche right now, it's a buzzword, but let's face it, it is happening. So, for instance, there was, according to a recent guidance study, over 95% of companies have digital transformation initiative. Around 50% of CIOs report that their enterprise have already changed their business models or are currently changing them. And yeah, this is something that we see everywhere. It's not just a US thing, we see this in Belgium and Luxembourg as well. And we have a practice within Red Hat that helps our customers with modernization and migration. And yeah, this is really it's quite broad. It goes from optimization of infrastructure through modernization of applications up to accelerating innovation. And they have a number of solutions to help with this, among which a number of analysis and migration tools. And they discuss all of these during the summit session. And in summit session, they also discuss a customer, Corpflex, which is a major Brazilian services, cloud services company. And they reduced VM costs from, $4,600 US to $600 per VM. And they did this by moving from expensive proprietary technology to our open source virtualization. And on top of that, they will soon offer OpenShift as a service. Now, there are two main advantages for Corpflex in this migration. So first, at the obvious one is that this cost saving saves them millions of dollars a year. And okay, that's the obvious one, but the technical debt has been reduced significantly. And by having the opportunity to go for an architecture that incorporated lessons learned, that really made a big difference to them. Now, often just reducing tech debt is not enough of an argument to actually do it, but when it's so clearly coupled to cost saving, I mean, that just makes it a much easier argument to make. But this is not something that you need to do from scratch. So we have tooling that helps automating these migrations, these modernizations. This tooling will do automate discovery, generate migration advice. It goes quite far really. All this tooling, by the way, it's from Red Hat, but it's all free of charge. This is, by the way, not just the case for the infrastructure, but we have similar possibilities for application modernization as well, where we have tooling, for instance, that analyzes your code or your Java binaries and advise you on, for instance, containerization of those of your applications, or on moving them from older applications onto more modern technology stacks and so on. And another interesting solution is Pathfinder, which inventorizes your application portfolio. It's an assessment tool, it's supported by questionnaire and so on. It helps you really gain a much clearer picture of your application landscape, see which are prime candidates for containerization, for modernization, and so on and so on. So I'd say if you're in a position where you want to gain clarity of your portfolio, whether it's infrastructure application, where you have initiatives to modernize your IT landscape, and this is definitely something to check out, the modernization migration solution session during the summit. It's a result really of a lot of experience at Red Hat of helping customers modernize and transform the way they work. So it's really based on actual facts, and it's quite extensive.
Now, to close, I want to share with you something that I personally learned at Summit. It's about our culture, about the importance of it and how it impacts our technology and innovation. I'm going to start off with a personal story. About 4 years ago, I read a book, The Open Organization. It was written by our former CEO, Jim Whitehurst, and I completely, instantly fell in love with it. Not with Jim, with the philosophy. And even if I swore that I would never work for a technology company ever again, only a few weeks after reading that book, I signed my contract with Red Hat. What convinced me was the fact that we are so much more than just an open source technology company. There is something at the heart of us, even more than Linux, and that is collaboration. The profound belief in communities and collaboration. Now, Red Hat Summit was all about collaboration, about how we collaborate with partners, with customers, and with each other. How do we all come together, and how do we innovate together? Now, I was personally thrilled to see that 16% of all presentations were dedicated to how people work together with our software. It was about culture, about open organization, open leadership, and of course, our open innovation labs. Now, let me share with you why there was such a big emphasis on our culture. Why are we spending over 20 sessions on something that we aren't selling? On something that isn't software, that isn't technology? Well, it's because we truly believe that open technology works best in the hands of open organizations. And looking at the figures, that's clearly a fact. A staggering 70% of companies say that they are failing at their digital innovation journeys. And 63% of them say that the cultural change is the biggest impediment to their transformational efforts. Now, we want our customers to be successful, and that is why we want to share our best practices with them. Our culture is our strategic differentiator. It's what makes us different. It's what makes us agile and innovative. It's what makes our technology better. It's what makes us as a company more successful. And as we found our origins in communities, and where our open source development model still is for that matter, the community culture and mindset were automatically injected into our Red Hat DNA from the start. One of the ways in which we can share our best practices is via our open innovation labs. This concept was born out of an ask from customers to help accelerate their innovation by showing them through practices how open source communities really work. Now, in an open innovation lab, we combine open practices with open technology and show them how they combined can create agile, high-performing teams. We show them the magic, what happens when you combine tools, business processes, and culture, the Red Hat way. At Summit, a number of our customers shared with us their experiences during such an innovation lab. And one of those was the Bank of New Zealand. They had to reinvent themselves completely as a DevOps agile team. And the biggest driver there was a realization that the need for automation demanded not only new tools and business processes, but it also required a complete change in behavior. People needed to communicate differently, negotiate with multiple teams, and adopt a completely different mindset. Now, one of the other customer stories that really stood out for me was the one by Varejo. It's a Brazilian retail company, and they have a team, a group of people that had never worked before, and our innovation labs needed to transform them into a high-performing agile team. Now, by applying the right culture, this team was able to really define the needs of their users. This could only happen by focusing on collaboration, on transparency, on user-centric design thinking, and on experimentation. Now, the result was that during Black Friday, they sold over 30% more than their biggest competitor. It was during one of these residencies with Varejo that the Corona crisis started. So all of a sudden, our Innovation Labs team had to reinvent themselves. And that's how virtual residencies came to existence. Now, our open culture is based on distributed communities. So in fact, we've already been doing distributed development for decades. Now, in order also to follow up on residencies, for example, with Volkswagen, there were already plenty of digital tools in place they could use to create these virtual environments. Now, I can recommend you highly to watch the session Scaling Product Development After an Open Innovation Lab. It's also by Volkswagen, and it's a very inspiring journey to watch. So yes, virtual residencies work just as good as physical ones, actually. The same collaboration, the same learning, the same amount of fun, and exactly the same dose of magic. Finally, I want to share with you something that I learned during one of the mindfulness sessions at Summit. Really, not kidding. They spoke about how culture is defined from a mindfulness perspective. Now, transformation and innovation are massive movements. There are profound change, creation of something new. Now, this type of thing only happens when people are truly connected, when they're inspired, when they come together. People need to understand why their efforts matter and how they are connected to the whole. They come together with common beliefs and work together to reach common goals. Now, culture comes from cultura, to cultivate, to tend. So it's not a box to be checked. It's no post-its. It's not something that you can learn from a book. It's leading from it and living it. It's about people, about how they are connected to each other and to the work that they do. It's that sense of belonging and purpose that drew me to Red Hat. It's what makes our culture so strong and what makes me believe that it will help our customers to be successful as well. Now, if you want to learn more about open organizations and open leadership, there is a great series of 3 webinars run by my colleague, Carrie Carrasco. We'll share the link to the first pre-recorded session and the registration link to the upcoming 2 sessions in the follow-up email. Okay, so that's a wrap. These were the highlights of Red Hat Summit 2020, at least according to us. Now, we know that you already got loads of information out of this, but you might still have some questions. We'll make sure that we check the poll to see which topics you want to know more about, and we'll cover them in the following sessions. If you have a personal question, just send us an email or call us, and we'll make sure that you get to the right person who can help you. Now, first of all, we just hope that you and your families and your loved ones are all safe and sound. And we very much look forward to seeing you in real life really soon. Thank you for watching. We're coming live to you right now. Wish up on a star and hope this night will last forever.
Hi, welcome everyone. This was quite a show and we hope that you enjoyed it as much as we did in making it. So let's have a look at the polls. I'm very glad to see that so many of you responded to the polls. And I'm even more thrilled to see that 70% of you already watched the sessions at Red Hat Summit. So I can only conclude that you really can't get enough of this, which is great. So because we can't either. Then if I'm going to have a look at your priorities, because we're really interested in those, we can see that 42% has automation on their minds. Bob, maybe you can tell a little bit about what we are seeing here.
Well, yeah, it's not a surprise actually. It's in line with a larger study and a larger poll on a worldwide basis, where indeed automation was and is the key initiative in these funny times. Maybe this whole thing, I'm not going to call it what it is because we're all tired of it, but maybe this whole crisis is showing that automation is actually very much needed. If you're not able to be in your regular workspace, in your data center, whatever it is, automation is a very much needed thing. And we're happy to see that it's also on your agendas. I know when looking at the names of in this session today, I know a couple of you are definitely full on with Ansible, and there's great sessions on Ansible still to be seen on our recorded sessions from the virtual summit. And so we did announcements about automation platform. So we no longer talk about Ansible, just Ansible or Engine or Tower. We talk about the automation platform. As Edward also mentioned, it got very well rooted into all of the rest. So it is really a platform because we are about platforms. Red Hat is about platforms. We are offering a container platform, a virtualization platform, an application platform, and an automation platform, and that's very key. So happy to see that's on the top of mind of most of you.
Okay, thanks, Bob. Now, maybe it's good to mention that on the 10th of June, if I'm not mistaken, we have an Ansible Automation Roadshow throughout EMEA. It's also virtual, and we'll make sure to put the registration link in the follow-up email. So for those of you who have automation on your minds, please check into this event. It's both for business audience and for technical audience. So I'm very sure that anybody will find what they are looking for in this event. Maybe another one for you, Bob. I see here also in the Q&A as a response to a question that is linked to your presentation that 37% of people are running OpenShift virtually on VMware.
Yeah.
I guess would have preferred to see that they're running it virtually on Red, but yeah, maybe your comments on this one.
Well, I've seen the results and they're not shocking. They're completely what I expected it to be. Namely, OpenShift is becoming the de facto standard in enterprise Kubernetes, especially starting out on the on-premise infrastructure. Now, it makes sense that most customers, some aside, but most customers are not going to build a complete separate virtualization stack or an infrastructure platform just to host something that's new to them. So it makes sense that you run it off your legacy infrastructure. But we also see that changing actually. We see that customers are going to span it to the public cloud, and some use it on OpenStack, others use it on Red Hat virtualization. But yeah, again, it's no surprise.
Yeah, indeed. And we see also that 21% is indeed on public cloud. So that corresponds with what you just said. Perfect. Ludovic, apparently 65% of people are getting very excited about the multi-cluster view. I was as well when I watched the demo by Burr Sutter, but what's your idea?
Thought you were going to say you were excited about it when I spoke about it, but okay, Burr Sutter, that's I'm not going to stop him, so fine. Yeah, it's in line really also with what I expected there. If you look at OpenShift and Kubernetes in general, a couple of years ago, people were starting out with it. They had one cluster that they were starting to make to actual use, a production use, not yet mission critical and so on. But over the last few years, it's really accelerated quite quickly. And so we see now a lot of customers with many different instances and the management problems that's associated with that. So yeah, especially multi-cluster view, 65% want that. That makes complete sense because now you need to jump from one to the other. It takes time, but also you're probably missing some things. It's the more complex things are, the more we make manual mistakes. So that makes sense. What I found surprising though was the 18% want said about the compliancy. That's really good. I wasn't expecting that, but that means that it's actually being put to to use for mission critical stuff where compliance is also important. Of course, we do see that, especially in the banking and finance sector, containers, Kubernetes, OpenShift is used quite a lot. So from that perspective, compliance definitely makes sense as well. Pushing updates, no one's exciting about that. I'm probably the only one, but that's good. That means that what we already had in OpenShift already worked quite well. At least that's how I choose to see it.
Okay, great. Thanks, Ludovic. So finally, if I look at the topics that you would like us to come back on, I see that OpenShift virtualization is winning here, just in front of Well 8 automation and Red Hat Advanced Cluster Management. So we'll definitely have a look at those results. If you have any other questions that you would ask us personally, then please do so.
Erica,
I
there's
can
a question in the Q&A. Yeah.
I can see that one. I'm just going to read it. Hello, I attended Virtual Summit, but I don't remember a session about workload migration from OpenShift 3 to 4. Is such a webinar available or planned? Personally, I'm not sure. Does anybody know within our team?
It's a good question, Loic. We definitely, or at least as far as I know, we don't have such a webinar planned available. I'd have to check. I do know there is some development that's been going on there, also on some roadmap stuff and so on, that they want to enhance this more in the short-term future, or maybe it was released in the last version. So it's a good point. And even if there's nothing planned, I think it makes sense that we maybe plan something about that. So thanks for the point. Yeah, there is some tooling available, by the way, but how to use it and so on. And there's, like you say correctly, there's the workload. Migrating the workload is quite different from migrating the actual configuration and the infrastructure. So there's a distinction to be made.
Loic will definitely look into it, and then if we can find something, we'll put it in the follow-up email so that everybody has the link to it. I can also see in the event chat that somebody asked for demo and recorded videos. Well, the direct link to the Burst Sutter demo is just a few comments above, so that you can visit it instantly. And actually every session and every demo that was hosted during Summit is still available for an entire year. So if you just go to the Red Hat Summit website, then you can watch everything on demand. Okay, let's see. We have, I think, covered all the Q&As. Now we will surely have a look at the polls and the questions and make sure that we have every type of downloadable content and links and information in the follow-up email that we will send to you in the coming days. Meanwhile, if you have any questions or you want to elaborate us on a certain topic, more specifically on your personal situation, just let us know, give us a call, send us an email, and we'll make sure that we contact you instantly. So thank you all for watching. Have a splendid day, and we'll see you hopefully physically live very soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.